Right, let's start off with why I'm actually doing this to myself. One of the main reasons that I am quitting caffeine is because during prep, my natural bodybuilding show, I got heavily dependent on caffeine to literally do basic day-to-day things, walk up the stairs, go and have breakfast. Not that I was eating much for breakfast, but nonetheless, my caffeine consumption went up exponentially during this period. And unfortunately, since then, I haven't been able to actually wean it down because arguably the period after my show was just as tough physically, mentally and psychologically than the prep itself. So I've found myself in a good place currently, and I've decided to actually quit caffeine, and I'm going to tell you how I did it, why I wanted to do it. First, let's get into some facts about caffeine.
Right, let's start by giving you some facts about caffeine, the most socially acceptable drug on the market today. According to the Academy of Sleep Medicine, it takes around 30 to 60 minutes for caffeine to reach its peak level in your blood, and it has a half-life of anywhere between 3 to 5 hours depending on how well you metabolize the substance itself. So how does this wonderful substance work? So it actually works by blocking adenosine, which is a neurotransmitter that tells our brain that we are tired. Whilst adenosine is blocked, dopamine production increases, meaning that a cup of coffee or any form of caffeine in the morning might just make you happier in yourself. Caffeine has also been widely researched in sports performance and has been shown in multiple studies to improve power output, speed, and endurance of athletes within controlled trials. However, the recommendations for the amount of caffeine you actually need to get these benefits is significantly higher than most of us would think. For example, from the research, the range of caffeine that they use is anywhere between 3 to 13 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. If I was to use that equation and apply it to myself at around 100 kilograms, that would mean I would be having 1,300 milligrams of caffeine before exercise. And that leads us nicely onto the side effects of caffeine. Caffeine has been reported in multiple studies to increase anxiety, sleep deprivation, digestive issues due to the laxative effect of caffeine itself. It has been shown in some cases to raise blood pressure, and we have all heard the horror stories of individuals who've had a Monster or a caffeine pill and sadly ended up dying from an overdose of caffeine. So these things do happen, and there are negative side effects of the substance itself.
Right, it's day one of no caffeine. I've decided to go cold turkey because my addiction to it has gotten pretty bad. Since prep, been having quite a lot of caffeine every day, and that's okay because you're allowed your little things that keep you going in life. But now I'm on a deload, so I've decided to quit caffeine. So today's day one. I wouldn't normally have caffeine in the morning anyway, but I would be having it when I get back from my morning walk. So I'm going to go on my morning walk as per usual, and then I'm going to see how my day goes without caffeine. So, the first morning of no caffeine, how am I feeling? So this morning I did have headaches, okay? And this is something that I've experienced before. And interestingly, it was around the time, or about an hour, or half an hour later than when I would normally have my first coffee. So I normally have my first coffee around 7:45, having woken up at kind of around 6. I'd normally go for my morning walk, and then I would come back, do a few bits, and then have my first coffee when I sit down to do my first bit of work. But obviously, having quick caffeine, that was not the case today. And I did have a headache. So what I did is I kind of tried to placebo the fuck out of myself and have a decaf. And I just made sure I was super hydrated. Headache is still there. But I think this is kind of just the way it is, and the first few days are always the worst. It's not helped by the weather being dull and boring. I've got a few boring tasks to sort out myself, but this is something that I need to do, and I'm coupling this with a deload, okay? And the reason for this is that most of the time my caffeine intake is around training to increase my performance, or give me the placebo that increases my performance. So With it being a deload, a devolume, I don't necessarily need that caffeine. I do need to rotate off because I got so dependent during my prep, and I haven't really been able to shift it because the fatigue after prep was probably just as bad. So first morning, how am I feeling? If I rate this out of 10, I'd probably rate it about a 7. It's been harder previous years when I've quit caffeine, but I'll keep you updated. Day 1, I'll probably do an update later on in the day, and then I'll do an update on day 2. But yeah.
Here we are then. Day 2, no caffeine. It is, what time is it? It's pretty early, you know. It's like 6. How do I feel? Tired today. How did I feel yesterday? Tired. So yesterday I actually had my first nap in about a year. So after my first work block, what the fuck is this light gone? So after my first work block, I lay down and I fell asleep, which is interesting. But yeah, that's that. Today, feel okay. I'm not sleeping very well, which is interesting. I thought I'd be sleeping much better, but maybe my body's just getting used to not having caffeine in the system at bedtime. I'm off now to just do my cardio, so I'm doing just 50 minutes or 40 to 50 minutes of steady state on the bike, and then because it's a deload week, there's no actual heavy intense training this week. I'll be then coming back, doing some work and slogging through the rest of the withdrawals. But I have got a decaf for a placebo, so wish me luck, and wish me luck on this cardio. I'll keep you posted.
Wonderful YouTube land. So it is day 4 of no caffeine. So I thought I'd give you a little update on my life, how I'm feeling. The harsh truth of the matter is that it has not been an easy feat. Day 1 was a false sense of security. I definitely felt way better than I thought I would. But then day 2 is where it kind of all started to go a little bit Pete Tong. So on day 2, and we're now on day 4, day 2, 3 and 4 have been just like a baseline headache for the whole day, right up in the temple, and causing a little bit of discomfort. And in general, energy levels, as expected, have been quite low. Luckily, I am on a training deload, so I'm not training at full intensity, but hopefully I will get some energy back at some point. Today, headaches were there this morning, and they've kind of dissipated as the day's gone on, as I've got more hydrated, but hopefully it gets better. One thing I will say is that sleep has been a bit hit or miss since quitting caffeine. But what can you do about that? It's probably my body just adjusting to not having a stimulant in it. And it could be some other lifestyle factors that I've got going on at the moment. So who knows? Day 5 tomorrow. That'll be 5 days without caffeine. I am having decaf coffee. So I've bought myself a decent decaf coffee to enjoy in my AeroPress because I enjoy coffee. So that was one of the problems around quitting it, is because I actually enjoy drinking it and the taste. So I found a decent decaf, which hopefully gives me the best placebo ever. But yeah, I'll check in on day 5. I'm about to go train. Well, I say train, deload session, pull. And then, oh yeah, I forgot to say, new merch. What do we think? This one's been worn, so it's a bit, but this is the new oversized fit. It's got a logo on the back. I can't turn around that much, but yes. So sold around 20 of those, so pretty happy with that. So if you got one of those, thanks for the support. But yeah, let's go train and I'll take you with me. Not that it's going to be very fun, but I'll check back in definitely on day 5 and let you know how my brain is. Day 5, no caffeine. Whoa, sorry. Yeah, sleep, not good. The main reason I did this was to improve my sleep, but what's actually happened is my sleep has got worse across the week. Some very weird dreams about things that I've not thought about for months, which is very concerning. Things that I won't repeat because things happened in the dream that weren't ideal. Very odd, but nonetheless. Day 5, I have my, brilliant, spilt it. I have my strongman mug because
I think I'm strong. And this is a decaf coffee to give me the best placebo that I could possibly hope for. But what's happening today? Deload legs today, but realistically I've just got a lot of client work to do. A lot of new sign-ups, which is good. People getting ready for summer. So again, day 5, I'll let you know how I feel later on in the day. Probably going to schedule a nap today because, like I said, sleep wasn't great, but all in all, like, this hasn't been that hard of a process. You've just got to suck up how shit you feel and get over it, because you've done it to yourself. You've created this dependency, so you're going to have to break it. So that's my best piece of advice. Would I recommend going cold turkey? Probably, because otherwise you're just drawing out the process, unless you're like super addicted and you're having like 10 cups of coffee a day. Another tip, make sure you find a good decaf coffee. I'll show you the one that I have later on. It's downstairs in the kitchen. But yeah, that's kind of saved my life, because when I'm wanting that coffee, I can have like a decaf. I know it has like 0.0001% of caffeine in it, but it gives me that placebo, it gives me the taste, which I do enjoy. Of course, it doesn't give you the feeling that caffeine does, but you may do, don't you? So yes, it's Friday. What date? You don't need to know the date, but other than that, I'm going to do some work because I've got to get on with my job, and then I've got deload legs, and then a day off, and then it's back to training. Yes. Right then, it is day 6 of no caffeine. Again, I have my decaf coffee here, but today's a bit different because, yes, I'm on a deload, but I'm going for a long cycle today without caffeine. So, not looking forward to it really. Again, last night's sleep was awful. Like, waking up throughout the night, really weird dreams, like multiple different dreams, multiple different storylines. Felt like I was in EastEnders at some points. Very strange. But I'm just getting some food in. Got a big feed. Ready for my ride today. Going to try and do around 80k, hopefully. Nothing too strenuous in terms of elevation. Just pretty flat. Keep things ticking over. Get out really, because I haven't really been out all week. So I'll let you know how that goes without caffeine. But yeah, tomorrow's the last day of no caffeine. Well, I'm going to keep it going forever really, but I'll keep you posted. Right then, it is day 7 of no caffeine. I've had full 7 days of no coffee, none of that sweet nectar to wake me up in the morning, get me going for training, or anything else going up the stairs. So my reflections on the week. This time around was a lot harder than the previous times that I have tried to have quick caffeine. I think this was because my intake had gone up so much that I had become quite dependent on it, and I really did search for it across the day to kind of give me those spikes in energy that makes you feel good, gives you that endorphin release and keeps you going back to the stuff, and that's why it's a drug, isn't it? As I got closer to the end of the week, my sleep did not get better. Last night was the first night really that my sleep did improve at all, so hopefully that will improve and carry on as I move into week 2. I do plan on staying caffeine free as long as I can, because I do not want my intake to go up so much again. What I did find yesterday, as I would have spoke about in day 6, is that it was quite hard to do an endurance event or endurance session without caffeine. I really did notice it then. Today is going to be my first training day without caffeine, because I'm coming off of my deload and entering my next training block. My biggest tips of advice for anyone trying to quit caffeine would be to just cut it out, eliminate it. Don't try and wean yourself down. Don't try and do all of this fluffy stuff. Just cut it out and roll with it. And what you'll find along the way is that how dependent, how much you really did rely on it to get through your day. I am finding now that my energy is a lot more consistent across the day. I'm not frequently searching for those cups of coffees when I have lulls in the day. Instead, I'm kind of just accepting them as periods of lower work quality or lower work productivity, and planning my days around these low points, because we all have low points in the day. So that is my full week of quitting caffeine. I will check back in probably in a couple of weeks and let you know how I got on. But if you did like the video, give me a like. Let me know if you've done anything like this before, and you can watch some of my other videos up here. But other than that, I hope you have a great day whatever you're doing.